Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy. What's up, guys? It's that time again. Welcome to the Frogman Friday Show. Presented by Transcend, the best peptide and hormone therapy. They put your health first so you can live more and worry less. Go to transcendcompany.com/Birdman to begin your wellness transformation today. Today, our badass guest is Eugene Pugh, aka Gene. He served 3 years, 2 months, and 28 days as a Green Beret, joining the ranks of the Elite MACVSOG and exiting service as a staff sergeant. He's the brand ambassador for Veterans Mortgage of America, founded in 2023 in Dallas, Texas. But to take a deeper dive, go check out veteransmortgageofamerica.com. Fast note, he has authored The Reunion Mission, The Diplomat, and Surrender Not an Option, which can be purchased all on Amazon. Brother, welcome to the show.
Good morning, brother. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. It's so awesome to have you. I mean, this is what gets me really excited. Talking to brothers is one thing, but to talking to a brother, yet also a mentor, you know, one of the guys we evolved as special operations because you guys. So to have you on is a huge, huge excitement for me. I'm just so grateful for you being here, man.
Ryan, it is truly an honor to be with you again. You know, we meet socially and other places and what have you, but to pass on to your listeners, to your viewers, hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely.
Truly, it's humbling. It really is.
Well, I want to dig in, man. I want to hear it all. So really the big thing that we always start out with was, and, you know, obviously this was like, 200 years ago, if you can remember.
At least, yes. Yes, I was there. In fact, I was at Gettysburg. If you remember, I told you I was at Gettysburg, yes. And then I was John J. Pershing, San Juan Hill, and then in the Philippines. So, yeah, I go back a few days.
That's wonderful. And your mind just remembers it all. You're so sound. Perfect.
Yes.
Well, let's dig right in. Let's talk about this. You went to an elite program in the Green Berets, and then obviously went to an even more elite program, a very niche program, MACVSOG. And obviously leaving the service, exiting from those elite groups, it can't be easy. And I've seen a lot with our generation of operators that it is very difficult to transition out of service. What was your transition like?
At that time in 1969, when I got out, you really couldn't talk about Vietnam because the anti-war movement that was going on at the time. So you had to hold everything in. And you also had the demons that plagued you. And I'm sure you're familiar with the demons. You could not talk to release those demons. And just like today, we've had a lot of individuals that took their lives back then. As the years went by, I was looking for a venue to release these demons. And mine came in the form of writing. So my first novel, Surrender Not an Option, was really a therapy session. It took me over 20 years to write that novel.
Wow.
As I wrote the novel, I did not know it at the time, even though it is a novel format. There were things that I had suppressed so far deep down. And as I was writing it, it would surface to the top. And all of a sudden I would be there in front of the computer. I'd start to cry, hands start to shake, put it on save. And it would be 3 months, 6 months, a year and a half. And then it was time to face the demons again. So I tightened up my belt, opened up the program, and start to write. And I became stronger that way because I faced my demons. couldn't do it all at one time. It was a gradual progression. Before that, when I was in college, I came back and started to work on my master's, which I didn't get because ran out of money, but that's another story. We had parties every night at the apartment. And we had parties. And one morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever it was, I picked up a drink. And then I looked at it and I immediately put it down. I'm going, oh my God, where is this going? And then I realized that I had to do a little quick assessment of myself. This is before VCRs and DVDs and whatever. So I stopped, rewind, and relived my period in Vietnam. Then I realized that that drink represented a crutch. I wasn't sick and I was not weak. Therefore, I don't need it. Poured it out. That night, we had a party at my place. Hey, Gene, let me fix you up a drink. That's all right, I'll fix it myself. For 5 years, I drank a lot of ginger ale.
That's awesome.
I drank a lot of ginger ale. I did not touch a drop for 5 years. And now, if you come to my house, I have a bar. My wife and I, we don't drink per se. We have some wine with our meals. We go and have a beer, one beer, and that's it. I control it. The drink does not control me.
That's amazing.
And so that's it. It's just a matter of mind over matter. And it's the strength that other people give you, that imparted to your mentors, that say, hey, don't do this. Don't do that. You're stronger than that. And we can get very strong physically, and that is shown. But the real strength is within you. And this is where the special operators come into play. We're alphas. We're alphas, correct?
Correct.
And so we're put through the crucible. Lesser men fail. We're given the choice to fail, but we don't go down that path to fail.
Right.
We grit our teeth. It's cold, yes, but I want to be a SEAL. I want to be a Ranger. I want to be a Green Beret. And I am not going to fail. That's the physical aspect of it. But as you well know, as you go through the training, it's also mental. It's the mental games. And that is what makes you strong. And as I was going through this, adjusting to the civilian life, during the 60s, there was a lot of civil unrest. Vietnam War, a lot of other issues that were coming on in the in the 60s and 70s. And if you recall, also, that was a time period of the terrorist attacks in the Middle East, Black September, and so on and so forth. A lot of hijackings, and from that group, right from that time period, a lot of your specialized units came about. In special forces, in the Army, blue light came about. From blue light, Delta came about. From Delta, then we had Teal Team 6 and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So then all of this kind of evolved from exterior events. But a lot of it came back to MACVSOG. MACVSOG was an experiment. It really was. Technically, Special Forces Green Beret at the time, we were advisors. And all of a sudden they said, hey, this is something that has to be DA, direct action. And even though Rangers could do it, they were very qualified to do this kind of work. However, they did not have the clearance to do it. Whereas for us, we were advisors to a small group of individuals, 6, 8 men. We were advisors. So that's where we can go into North Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, and what have you. So we were advising them. So that's how we got away with it. So that was our niche. And at the very beginning, the American composition of the recon teams, and we're talking 66, 67, part of 68, were World War II veterans and Korean veterans. But these men were getting up in age, and they realized that running recon, hey, that's a young man's game.
Sure.
And so the torch was passed on to our generation. And from that generation, within the Special Forces community, the Green Beret community, that's where the legends came about. You look back and you go, oh my God, Mad Dog Schreiber, the Frenchman, and all these guys. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
It's amazing to dive deep. And I mean, I think about this because we don't have any more World War II vets that are living, and Korea is not far behind that right now.
Right.
But to be in the military during the time when you had those men still serving, that is insane. Because even to when I went into the service, I don't believe that we had anybody from Vietnam that was active. We had some people that were still like contracting, still around the command, but it was this new generation of kind of peacetime operators, if you will. Right. And so to have all of those people to look up to had been in Korea, World War II, and then obviously Vietnam before you got there. I mean, that is a plethora of knowledge. And you moved quick too. I mean, you went right in and got going, and you went right through the Q course, and then you hammered out and went straight to special activities.
That was it. And the thing about it was, of course, I had 4 years of college when I went in. I already had 4 years of college. Spoke Spanish and French. Already had a top secret clearance, crypto. And most of the operators in MACVSOG were radio operators. A lot of the team members were radio operators, which is rather interesting. And I guess we had more radio operators than we had other MOSs. And so, yeah, it was interesting. That
makes sense, though.
It does. And not only that, but in Special Forces at that time, there were a lot of what we call DPs, displaced personnel from Europe. An example, on my team back at Fort Bragg, I had a German World War II paratrooper. I had another German who was a tank commander in the Battle of Kursk.
Wow.
I had 2 Hungarian freedom fighters. Had two men that escaped through the Berlin stuff, whatever, through the Berlin Wall and what have you. These guys defected. Those were my mentors. You did not have to teach them about communism and the evils of communism. They lived it. And they would put you down in a nanosecond. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, we were outside doing something and it was cold. I mean, just bitter cold. And I was being the typical 24-year-old idiot. I was complaining how cold it was. And Kropik, World War II German paratrooper who was in the Battle of Stalingrad, said, "Hey, Pugh, you don't know what cold really is." And I was about to say something, and I remembered Stalingrad. You're right, Kropik. I don't know diddly squat about being cold. And so, yeah, they would put you in their spot. I mean, just bingo, just like that. Just, you did not want to argue with them.
That's a big thing in the military that is so successful is you can talk freely and openly, and you can be as aggressive as you want when talking to people. Whereas in corporate America as a civilian, you have to be very choicey on how you actually say your words to people. Like him
True.
saying, "You don't know what cold is." If I said that to in corporate setting, I'd be in HR in 2 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And uh, my sergeant major, E9, would be what? The CPO, Chief Petty Officer?
Master Chief.
Master Chief. Okay, Master Chief. Okay. He was 17 years old, first wave on D-Day with the big red one.
Wow. Wow.
Okay. That man was tough. If you had an excuse, you better have something to solve it. In better words, you went in with a problem, you better have a way of solving that problem.
Yeah.
He was fair, but tough. Tough love. Those are the kind of men that you don't see anymore in the military.
Right.
They were fair. I mean, but they were tough. And as you well know, as you went through your SEAL training yourself, the program is designed to make you fail.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
But how many people quit before they failed?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
You know, they quit before they fail. And yet a whole lot of people complete the course. You know?
Yeah.
And so again, comes back down to a personality.
Right.
You know, and transitioning to the civilian world. We're gonna go to transition to the civilian world. In in the military setting, you're given a mission. Do they tell you how to do the mission? No. They just give you the mission, go do it. It's up to you to develop, to design the mission, so to speak. Okay. And yes, they give you some help. They give you the five paragraph ops order, okay, that you fill out. They may give you a overhead shot of the geography, so on and so forth. And then you look at it and you go, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, so on and so forth. Bingo, let's do it.
That's the good stuff.
That's the good stuff. However, because of your training, you also know how to get out.
Right.
You plan for the oh defecation. I don't know if I can say oh shit, but anyway.
Say it.
Yeah, you can say,
Send
okay,
it.
the oh shit, the oh shit deal, oh my God, oh shit.
Yeah.
And we've all been there. We train our minds to do that so we can analyze it real quick and we're out of there. The same thing goes now to the civilian world. Okay. You have trained your mind for the oh shit. And the way I like to look at it is this way. When you get out, there's two things: the need and the want.
Okay.
And if you can supply those, any one of those two, you're successful. You know, what do you need? I need a roof over my head. I need food. I need that. I need that. The need,
Right.
supply it. And then the want. Well, I want a Rolex. I want a Bentley. I want whatever. I want. Well, then you supply that want,
Right.
you know? And so before a person gets out, I would suggest to look at, because we're observant, we analyze, and you go, you know what? I can supply that need, blah, 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 blah. I can supply that want, blah, 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 blah. And then you come up with a business plan. And this is the hard part. We give it to somebody else to read. That's my baby. That's my baby. You're going to poke holes in it. That's my baby. And it's tough that they're going to get your baby and they're going to go, nope, 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 maybe. So, oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, do this over again.
Yeah. But what great opportunity when they're doing that. How wonderful that truly is.
Yeah.
If you can hear what Gene is saying, I did the same thing where I started to create something and it was my baby. I was creating, it was the first time I'd ever had the chance to create something of my own. And then I put it out to our board of directors or my advisors, friends that were looking at it. And they gave me this time. And yeah, they poked so many fucking holes through that thing that I was like, when it came back, it looked like somebody had murdered somebody on it. It was
Yeah.
redlined and everything. And I was like, I mean, what did I even do this for? And I had this stupid attitude. But then when we started to dial in and look at it, it was like, okay, this is why we don't think this is going to work, but this will work for you. And we're not saying this is all crap, but we want to help you because you said you wanted to do it right. And looking back on it now, what an incredible thing for people to surround you who know more than you and
Right.
give you that information.
Go to successful people. They will mentor you. You notice that I've written books. Okay. I take it to my editor. I don't have the red pen, but a red pen. And it comes back down like it has the measles, you know? And you go, that's my baby.
Yeah.
I also write screenplays. One of my screenplays I've written 22 times,
Wow.
22 rewrites. And, I turn it in. Oh, no, you got to do this. You got to do that. And you rewrite it again, shorten this. Let's work on the dialogue on this particular scene or expand this or whatever the thing is. 22 times. And yes, your ego gets bruised. It really does. But then after a while, you realize that it makes you better.
Right.
It makes you better. I don't know if you noticed, but in the back, there's some samurai swords.
Of course, I noticed.
Yes. Okay. Now, the reason for the samurai sword is this. You know how a samurai sword is made.
I have an idea because I have friends that are now becoming master bladesmiths, but I do
Right.
not fully know.
Anyway, basically it's made out of two pieces of metal. You have a soft core and then a hard shell because I don't know the terminology. And they put it into the forge, take it out, beat it, shape it, take it back into the forge, take it out, beat it, so on and so forth. Then what they do is that they split it and fold it over itself in the forge, take it out, beat it. That's your life. As you live through your life, you're going to be put into the forge, taken out, and beaten. Put into the forge, taken out, and beaten. And as you go through your job, organization, spiritually, physically, whatever the thing is, what comes out is this beautiful blade. Sharp, deadly, awesome. And that's why I have it there.
That's amazing. What an analogy, too.
And that's why I have it. It's just that I look at it when things get rough, I realize that I am being put into the forge and taken out and beaten. And I'm being shaped. And it may sound, I'm going to go in this direction. It's beaten by our Lord. Our Lord takes out that hammer and he beats you to a certain extent for you to accomplish your goal. He wants you to be sharp. He's guiding you in a certain way, and he wants to make sure that you are worthy of what he has prepared for you. I have this for you right over here, but I want to make sure that you're prepared for it. So that's how I look at things. When you first, and when was Buds? What week is that? When you go into Buds, is that what, third week, fourth week? What?
You mean Hell Week?
Yeah. Which week was Buds?
Hell Week, I believe, was the fifth week. Yeah. I think it was the 5th week.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that was it was originally created by the NCDUs, Naval Combat Demolition Units, in World War II, and Hell Week was the first week of training.
Right.
I just found that out not too long ago by a former SEAL who actually wrote an incredible book on the historical evidence of what became the Navy SEALs. And finding out, you're hand selected to go, just like you to MACVSOG.
Yeah.
You're hand selected to go to this elite unit, and we are going to you don't know what it is until you get through, and we're going to absolutely annihilate you right out of the gate. And I think about that now. So we had this preparatory of, this 4-week, I believe, indoc before, and then you had 4 weeks of training in Buds before you got to Hell Week. So you had a little bit of a build up. I mean, it's still going to kill you, but at least you have some kind of a build up to it.
Right.
But those guys back in World War II did not.
Yeah. In World War II, again, going back to that time period, there was a sense of urgency. There was a small group of UDT men, Frogman, that did the beach analysis there on D-Day.
Right.
They were the first ones. I mean, they went out there and they did the grade on the beaches and so on and so forth. On the American beaches, of course, they got their names really came to the forefront was in the Pacific.
Right.
The Pacific, that's where the Frogman really came to its being there. And then, of course, President Kennedy was the one that said, you're going to be SEALs. As he was a Navy guy, right?
That's right.
But he was the one that authorized the Green Beret for Special Forces. And
is that right?
That's right.
Huh.
Yeah, he authorized the Green Special Forces had been there since 1952. Okay. But the beret was an unauthorized headgear.
Okay.
And General Yarborough, kind of a maverick kind of a guy, general, made sure that when President Kennedy came down to Fort Bragg, everyone's going to wear a beret. So everybody was scrounging around for berets and, putting it on and everything else. And so when Kennedy saw that, he goes, I like that. It's a badge of courage. And then, of course, Kennedy being the Navy guy, he says, the Navy needs a specialized unit. And therefore, the Sierra Land SEAL came about from that point on. So, yes, Kennedy was the man for that.
Instrumental in, just had this huge passion to want to grow the special operations community. I don't know a ton. I mean, I've had several Green Berets on the show, and I don't know a ton of your history, but I do talk with a lot of the guys about the founding and all that. But I did not know that Kennedy had his hand in authorizing the Green Beret to become what it
Yeah,
is. That's pretty
yeah.
cool.
He was the one that authorized it in
Amazing.
1961, I believe it was. And so that became the official headgear, to the chagrin of the conventional Army. And of course, the Green Beret was kind of modeled after the SAS.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, actually, it was the no, I'm sorry, the British Commandos, which were actually Marines.
Yep.
In the British Army. So yeah, they used the Green Beret. So yeah.
That's cool.
So there's a lot of stuff that's interesting. For example, we had, I believe, six or more. I'm gonna that way it covers my butt. 6 or more SEALs that actually ran recon with SOG in a Army unit out of Khartoum. One of them was a guy named Gary Shattuck. He was there 66, 67, I believe. And great guy. Never met him, but there were others that were there.
I
But they
love
were
that cross
mostly,
pollination. I love that cross pollination when you have joint
yeah,
bilateral ops type stuff. I mean, just, that extra firepower, you do have a difference. So the Green Berets and the SEALs, we do different tactics, all structured from the same kind of, place, but then they venture out to their different action points. And, it's just cool when you have that extra superior firepower and then you've got like-minded guys from. It's always cool because then, it's like there's always the shit talking like SEALs, Green Berets, who's better, whatever. And of course, back at the command and back in the United States, just like, well, of course, Navy SEALs are better. And the Green Berets are like, not even close. And we go back and forth, but then we get overseas and there's none of that shit. It's just, we're going to go operate together, do some fun stuff.
that's it.
We do talk a ton of shit to each other while doing it as well.
The thing about it is, funny you should mention that, is that I had a social event and there was a Marine there. And of course, I knew him. He's a dear brother. Love him. Just absolutely love him. But we were talking all sorts of trash to each other. And there was a lady there and she goes, "Oh my God, there's going to be a fight." I said, "Lady, you have no idea." It says, "If we don't talk trash to each other, that means we don't love you." I mean, if he doesn't talk to me, there's something wrong. If he doesn't jerk my chain, he doesn't love me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to talk trash to each other to show our love. That kind of stuff.
And the fight's been going on longer than we've been around.
Yeah.
I always say, it's the fight, and the fight between us has always been longer than I've been born. But
yeah,
it's all good. You're right, though. It's
all
pure
good.
love. It's so
And
odd.
the thing about it is, for example, in the early days when the SEALs started, came about, part of the evolution was they had to go through Ranger School. And they went through Army Ranger School and went through jump school. I believe that's now more internal. I believe that, but it's based on the Army Ranger School protocol. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we used to go through jump school. I don't know when they eliminated Ranger from our pipeline. However, they would send SEALs every year to Ranger school.
Uh-huh.
It was more of an ask, like, hey, do you want to go? But when I was going through, everything was mandatorily. You finish SEAL training or BUDS, and then you go straight to Fort Benning for jump school
Right.
or Army. And then you would come back to go through SQT SEAL qualification training. Now we have our own jump pipeline, so we don't do Benning anymore. And there's a good and a bad to that, because you keep the guys where they're at and you can go right from their static line into their free fall course. So it's a nice
Right.
transition. But I didn't necessarily like going to jump school for the physical training portion of it, because we were operating at a different level at that point
Right.
physically. But to go through what probably hadn't changed since World War II, that old and iconic training center, doing the tower work,
Right.
learning all the stuff that my grandfather probably went through, that was really cool to me. And so I feel like the guys missed that portion. But yes, we did go through Benning's jump school.
Right. Um, did you go to Yuma for a free fall?
We had free fall in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Okay,
Yep.
because the Army is at Yuma. So
Yep. Now I mean, a lot of people, a lot of the huge training center and a lot of the special ops go there now for
right.
real training. But the pipeline initially happens in San Diego for free fall.
Wow.
And nobody wants to do static line. I mean, now when guys are getting in, they're hearing the war stories about, like, you can't control it. You're going to land where you land. It's going to be a brutal landing every time. And they're like, great. And now you're going to carry 100 pounds. You can do a combat equipment jump. Good luck. Have fun. And yet they see the more seasoned veterans or SEALs coming in on their ram air canopies, squares, and landing nice and easy, standing there and just laughing at the guys who just did a PLF and just dying on the ground. I mean, we just jump into a field where there's cactuses, and I don't know what it was about me. No matter, and this is all static line, but no matter when we jumped, I would always land right in the damn cactus. And these are cactuses that go into your core
Oh
and
yeah.
they make you scream, and there's nothing you can do about it. But then I look at, Normandy, and I look at when they were actually doing real paratrooper thing.
Right.
Because I've never done a combat jump.
Neither
So,
have I. No.
yeah. But then, I mean, seeing them jumping out of the DC-3s and launching, gunfire blazing, just, it's gnarly.
It is. It is. The thing about it, going back to through transitioning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to quote Kropik, this World War II German paratrooper, because I asked him what was the best advice he could give me going into Vietnam. He said, you have to overcome your fear of dying and let your training resolve the problem of the moment. So we translate that to the civilian world. You have to overcome your fear of failing and let your training that you received in the military that builds up your confidence to do your work. When you're in a combat situation, you're scared to death. There is no doubt about it. But you rely on your training to bring you through it. Going back to business, when you do your business plan, you know where the pitfalls are or could be. So when they do appear, bingo, you've already had that exfil plan already, or whatever it was that you had, you already have it planned. So those individuals that are about to retire, that would be my advice to them. Need and want. Fill in that niche. The need, house, whatever it is, transportation, and the want. Rolex, Mercedes, Benz, or whatever. But that's the key to success in the civilian world. I have two companies formed last year. One is Impact Studios, And the reason we did Impact Studios was to protect my IP, intellectual property. I've written 18 screenplays.
Wow.
Again, for me, it's therapy.
That's amazing. I wanted to touch on that real quick before you jump into your first company.
Sure.
One, obviously I knew nothing about Vietnam because I was not there, I wasn't born yet, but when we came back from service or come back from war, the country was completely behind the United States, behind our soldiers, and we felt nothing but love coming back. And we still have a hard time transitioning in your head emotionally and mentally out of service, or even just getting back from combat and then transitioning back to a normal day-to-day job until you go back to combat. But that we still have those hard issues even with all the love being poured into us. But for you and your teammates, when you came back to be spit on and shit on and told that you were baby killers and all this stuff, I want to say it's such an embarrassment to know that this happened in our country for you guys. I also want to say a massive thank you to you, because without you guys, we wouldn't have a military.
Mm-hmm.
We're following in your footsteps. We're doing this because you paved the way, and we're more advanced than we have ever been as a special operations community because you guys laid the pavement for us. And so a humongous thank you to you for that. And it's really, really amazing to be able to sit and talk with you, because I had a hard transition getting out and I had everything going for me. And for you to be able to find your path and not completely derail with all of those things against you, incredibly commendable, brother. And I hope that you're singing that word to every vet, every person out there, because we have a suicide rate that just keeps climbing right now.
Right.
And it's not going away. In fact, I think when it's going to go away is when all of the war fighters from this generation are done. Like
Yeah.
when we're completely done and it's the new generation, maybe they're not in conflict or combat, you're going to see a massive lull in that, which is amazing. But for our generation, it just continually happens. So I felt compelled to say that, man. Like, I always look at Vietnam. World War II is obviously, I love to read everything about World War II. In Korea, we don't know a whole lot about. They call it the Forgotten War. So I like to dig into that. And then you have World War I, which nobody seems on the face of the earth to know anything about, except for people who care about history. But Vietnam is one of those ones where I pay the most homage to, because you were handed a shit stick and you took it and ran with it, and you especially crushed it. So I just felt like saying that to you, brother.
Thank you. That means I owe you a lemonade or something like that.
You don't owe me shit, man.
But anyway, no, seriously, Ryan, love you. You know that. You know that. Love you. Really do. The reason that I'm still alive, number one, upstairs, is because of individuals such as yourself, your generation. We have to pass the torch. Okay? I've been asked to speak at various events, Rotary groups, VFWs, high schools, things of that nature. And I opened up my speech. I think I may have mentioned this to you. And I said, does anybody have a stopwatch? And I says, humor me for 1 minute. So I click it. 10 seconds, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1 minute. No one was shooting at you. Imagine a soldier, a Marine in a foxhole, helicopter pilot dodging missiles, a soldier, a sailor above and below the ocean. That 1 minute is a lifetime. And Then I usually follow it with Isaiah 6:8. I heard the voice of the Lord, that particular one, who shall go for me? Send me. Okay. And it never fails after my talk. There's someone in the group that will come up to me and will go, you know what? I did not know that minute could be so long. You and I have experienced that 1 minute.
Absolutely.
And it is long. It is very, very long. And so I usually do not talk about myself. I like to talk about the unit, the history of the unit. And when I do talk about myself, it's the team. It's the team. The team did that. The team went there, so on and so forth. I just happen to be part of the team. But I don't talk about myself. Now, during the Q&A, usually I have a Q&A afterwards, about 10 minutes. And again, I try to, I don't say sugarcoat it, because it all depends on the audience. But I do try to, choose my words.
Sure.
And at the same time, make a point. If you're dealing with a high school, you're there for one reason, and that's those are the leaders. They're looking at the past right now. They're looking at the past. I'm looking at the future. And so my answer to them is to build their future. That little word of advice that may hit that future leader. If I'm in another environment, totally different answer, so to speak. But I want to make sure that I'll leave them on a positive note, because you never know what they're going to ask you.
Right.
I've only had, and I've been doing it for a few years. I've only had it done one time. And they ask me if, and they'll ask you or something like that. They'll go, did you ever kill anybody?
Yep.
And my answer to them is, there is no glory in taking another human life.
Understood.
So, and I'll leave it at that. And then they kind of look and they go, okay, fine. And so, but there's always, in I think the 10, 11 years that I've been doing it, talking, I've only had one time. But there's always that one person. And then there's always a humorous one. They'll say, well, did anything funny ever happen on a mission? And you go, oh yeah. Sometimes there were some keystone moments. I think we've all experienced those keystone moments, but you're a SEAL, you're a Green Beret. You're supposed to be all serious and everything. Trust me, there are some screw ups that.
Oh yeah. Every time.
That are just hilarious. At the moment, they're not hilarious. But afterwards, you're like, I don't believe that happened.
That's right.
Do
you happen to have one of those at the top of your head?
Yeah. We were what they call the nickel steel area there, where North Vietnam, Laos, and South Vietnam kind of meet together. And that particular area was just crisscrossed with a lot of footpaths, little footpaths. And Nook had to take a dump. He had to take a dump, and he had to, he let us know, said, I gotta go. So we stopped in place. Takes off his gear and everything else. He grabs a hold of this tree, and he's kind of, doing the squatting, and out of nowhere, out of nowhere, voices appear. I mean, they're talking and everything else, and I'm talking, 10, 15 feet. There are about four of them walk right by us. They have their weapons that sling arms, and they just walk right by us. I look at Nook, and a big turd is coming out of his ass. I mean, one of those long ones, just one of those. And you go like, your eyes are this big, and everything else, and they walked right by us. That's you go, nah, it didn't happen. Oh, yes, it did.
So essentially got the shit scared right out of him.
Yeah, literally, yes. But it's one of those things that you go, it did happen, yeah.
Wow.
But and there's a couple of others, but not like that one though.
That's the good stuff right there. Because every time the brotherhood gets together and we start shooting the shit, stories start coming out from the past. All those doozies. What I didn't realize is how many of them I was involved in.
Oh, yeah.
Until recently. And I was like, I should have expected that because I am that dude. Whether it's karma or it's just I was born to be some kind of a mascot / like laughing stock. I was always one of those curators of the dumb shit. So that's a funny story, man. So
I'm sure you've had a few yourself.
Oh, yeah. Tons. Well, this is not my podcast, though. We'll dig in another time.
Right.
So let's dig into, you were talking about your first company for intellectual property protection. So what exactly do you do?
Okay, Impact Studies. I am the writer. Okay, we have myself and two other partners. And I've written actually 5 novels. The 3 that you see there and 2 that they're being edited right now.
Okay.
So I've written 5. I have a 6th one that I'm in the process of writing. And the screenplays, Surrender Not an Option. A person read it and they said, you know what, you should make a TV series out of it. Wow, okay. So I wrote the first episode. Then the individual said, you know what, we're going to give it to a professional writer to write the other 11. I said, wait a minute. How are you going to get the information? He says, we'll get some of it from your book and we'll contact, some people out there. He says, I'm going to tell you exactly how that's going to happen. You're going to contact Baby Son. And you go, hey, my name is, Joe Schmuck, whatever. I'm writing a screenplay, blah, 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 so on and so forth. And I'd like to hear your stories. Baby Son is going to say, who are you again?
Right.
No. The long version is hell no. I call up Baby Son. Hey, Baby Son. Hey, Gene, what's the matter? What's going on? Hey, let's talk about that mission. Great, you got a beer? We talk. So I wrote all 11 episodes. 12 episodes. Then you have a fertile mind. You write stories. An example, a guy we had a conversation for 20 minutes. 20-minute conversation, and I developed a screenplay out of it.
Wow.
It's just that kind of stuff that you can go and say, I could develop this. I could expand it. I was born and raised in Central America in Panama. And there was a legend that I liked very much. So what I did, I got that legend and modernized it a little bit, but it's based on that legend. And so that's what I did. For example, you and I could be having a cold one somewhere, and you tell me a story, and I go, you know what, that needs to be expanded a little bit more. I know that part of it is classified, blah, 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 so on and so forth, but I'm going to use the basis of what you just told me. That's going to be the centerfold. It's going to be it. And then I'm just going to put the peripheral action around it. And that's what I do. One of my novels that right now is being edited deals with white slavery. Okay. Which is predominantly going on right now. So I wrote about that. My fifth novel deals with the bad guys coming in through the border, southern border. Bingo. So that's what I write about. Go into a little bit more detail, so to speak. So I like to write. It's an outlet.
Sure. You get to be creative.
Be creative. Yes.
When we get to be creative, it's when we're at our highest level, I believe, of operations. I always said someday I'm going to write a screenplay, just purely for fun to see if I could do it. But every single time I make the time to sit down, I'm like, I'm going to do it. That special sauce isn't there. And I'm like, what? I don't know what I'm going to write about. We're just going to shelf that for a while. It's crazy.
Funny you should mention that. In reality, in writing a screenplay, and there's a lot of screenplay programs out there. There's the one I use is Movie Magic 6. That's the one I use. And there's a bunch of others out there that you can download and use. If you get past the third page, you got it.
Check.
Once you get past, and the thing about it is, a lot of times when I start writing a screenplay, I really don't have the ending. I don't. Because you get in it and it starts to write itself. You create your own dialogue. You create the character. In your mind, you're watching a movie. Boom, 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 boom. Fade in, fade out, dissolve, whatever. Interior, daytime, such and such an office or whatever, or jungle or whatever. And then you just continue. The same thing in writing a novel is once you get past the third or fourth page, you're there. And trust me, there are times when my wife Phyllis will say, "Hey, Gene, it's time to go sleep. It's 2-3 o'clock in the morning because I've been, at it." You just get carried away. It's a lot of fun.
I don't have that luxury at this particular moment with two kids between the ages of 8 and 5. They decide when I get home, they're like, I want to destroy every moment of your life from the time that you get home to the time that we go to bed. And so I always get my ideas like, okay, I'm going to put them to bed and then I'm going to get some of that creativity going for at least 30 minutes, 40 minutes. That doesn't happen either. So.
You're right. True.
But I will at some point. So let's dig into this. I want to get back to the books because I want to hear about each one of them, but let's dig into Veterans Mortgage of America. Talk to me about what it is, what you guys do that separates you, and what you're trying to do.
Number one, the two other partners that with me in the Impact Studios are also in the mortgage business. So then we added one more, a gentleman by the name of Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson worked for the VA. In fact, he wrote a lot of the legislation that went to Congress in dealing with VA lending.
Okay.
So he is top dog. Michael Pankow is probably in the top 5 in reverse mortgages nationwide. PJ Putnam deals with a lot of our commercial and business lending.
I know PJ.
And I am, yeah, you know PJ.
Yep.
And so I'm the brand ambassador. I go out, I eat a lot of rubber chicken and so on and so forth, and then talk about it. All of us are veterans, which is, we want to contribute to the veteran community because we are veterans. A lot of other organizations may only have one veteran, and they take advantage of the veteran.
Yes, they do.
You know, they take advantage. We don't want to be taken advantage of. You know, another thing too is there's a lot of advertisement out there. Well, advertising costs a lot of money. I would rather that we save you money and that word of mouth or whatever does our advertising. You know, and we do through social media and so on and so forth. But those commercials that you see, that's millions and millions of dollars that we could use that money to your advantage, the veteran.
Right.
And that's what we want to do. Right now, we are expanding to a veterans title, and then eventually, hopefully, have veterans realty. So
Wow.
we are expanding our brand. And it's a lot of fun. It really, really is, because we start getting the feedback, and like the old saying goes, it's like an acorn, you know, and then becomes a mighty oak.
Yeah.
You know, so right now we're kind of like in the acorn stage. We're there. We're starting to get there. So hopefully we'll be the mighty oak, and we want to serve it, because you and I, yes, our military service is over, but we continue to serve.
Right.
It's in
Amen,
our DNA.
brother.
We continue to serve. It's in our DNA. We can't help it. We want to be there to serve our fellow veterans, our community, to a higher standard. I mean, we answer to a higher calling. Whether we like it or not, we do.
The faster you can realize that, the faster you can carry on with success.
True.
Yeah.
It is.
You know Alan Clark?
Oh, good Lord, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Pillars. Yeah, we go to the Pillars of luncheons. Yes.
Yeah. So Alan, I was putting together this massive project it's called the Human Performance Project 7X, and it's getting ready to come out next year. But it's really to look at the 5 pillars of what we believe is something veterans, but anybody needs to look at when they're struggling. It's the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and social side of the house. And spirituality being not like yoga and meditation, that goes in more of the emotional side and the mental side, but it's God. And I was talking to Alan Clark about this. And for those of you who don't know, Alan served alongside Green Berets, was not a Green Beret, but served alongside Green Berets in Vietnam, stepped on a bomb. He lost both of his legs, and just an amazing human who continued to serve his whole life. He's still doing that. He's still serving. He hosts luncheons and he does a lot of stuff, but he's a very, very dear mentor to me. And I was telling him about this whole project, and he goes, well, I'll tell you what, I love everything about this project you're creating, but if you really want to help a veteran find true north, help him find Jesus Christ. And I was like,
yeah,
wow, so simple. It
is.
Yeah.
And the thing about Alan, I'm glad that you mentioned Alan, because he is one of those pillars himself. He was 5'9".
Yeah.
He lost both of his legs. And when he was getting his government legs, he said, "Hey, I've always wanted to be 6'2".
That's right.
You make me 6'2". And so they made him 6'2". And when he when he got his new legs, of course, mentally, he's 5'9". So when he would get into cars and other things, bang, he'd hit his head. Uh, so yeah, it was rather interesting. Some of the stories that he would tell you about just uh, when he was getting adjustment to his new legs, to his new height. Uh, they were hilarious, just hilarious stories. But yeah, I love Alan. Um, when I get a phone call and I look at the ID, and I'm looking, oh my God, it's Alan. Now, what is he going to get me into? you know, and but everything is good. I love him, I really do, and of course, Linda, his wife.
Yep, both great humans, absolutely.
So if you ever have the chance to have Al, I mean, yeah, Alan is a good person.
I'll reach out to him for sure. He called me the other day because he had an interest. He needs a chiropractor. And I'm like, you need a chiropractor? All right, I'm gonna help you. So, but yeah, he's always got some trick up his sleeve, and he's always like, all right, I'm getting too old for this shit, man. I just got to slow it down. He doesn't use those words. I do, but he's like, I just got to slow things down. And then next month, he's like, all right, we're starting back up. And we've got this coming and this speaker and this thing. And you're like,
I know that.
You just don't know how to stop.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't. And he was the one that got me at least somewhere between 15 and 10 10 to 15 speaking engagements. Gene, have I got a deal for you? I go, oh, gee.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
So you're the brand ambassador for Veterans Mortgage of America, and you guys are in the almost infancy stage. Obviously founded in 2023, so you are growing this. What exactly do you offer currently to veterans, and how can they get involved with you?
Basically, is you go to our website, www.veteransmortgageofamerica.com, and go to the link to how to get in contact with us. Whether you're looking for a first mortgage, you want a reverse mortgage, or you want to refinance, because right now we're in kind of like in a transitional phase right now, with the new administration coming in and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of people that are going to hold off. They may want to get the piece of property right now, pay the highest, higher mortgage rate, interest rate, but then they'll refinance because they know that I want that property. Yes, I can pay a higher premium price for the next 6 months, whatever the thing is, knowing that 6, 7, 8, 10 months from now, they can refinance at a lower rate. And of course, as a veteran, you get a lower rate.
Absolutely.
And also with reverse mortgages, elderly, widows, that comes in really handy, where the equity of their home pays for itself, so to speak. In better words, they don't have to dish out the $1,000 or $1,200 on a monthly basis if they're on a fixed income. And then when they pass away, that package then becomes part of the sale price of the home. So the current owner doesn't have to worry about that. That becomes a package when the house is sold. That's how that money is recouped back to the bank, so to speak.
Interesting. Okay. Well, if you're a vet, and do you do this are you Texas based? Do you do it nationally? I mean,
we are national.
Okay.
We are national. We are in all 50 states. Texoma Bank is our funding entity. So if you want to do primary lending, refinance, reverse mortgages, and of course business or commercial lending, we are your one all stop all deal.
Yep. Well, I love that. I love that it's one run and controlled by all vets.
All vets. All four of us are vets.
That's
Um,
huge.
and two of us are disabled vets. So we know when a person says, "Hey, I'm a disabled vet," bingo. Hey, you go to the front of the line, so to speak. We also do non-vet loans too. Um, you'd be surprised how many non-vet loans we get.
Sure.
Um, so, and a lot of reverse mortgages because of the, I don't want to get political, but Bidenomics
Yeah.
has created a lot of problems.
100%. Yeah,
So
I mean, this is the problem right now is people are, I mean, obviously if this podcast will live on the internet forever, so just noting
right,
that it is happening at the end of 2024, this particular show. And right now, mortgage rates are out of control. People don't want to spend the heightened rates, and people are very scared to buy property because the rates are so high and could they go down? And I mean, it's to the point now where the cost of living has gone up so much that for the neighborhood we live in, and we're not like in a gated community, but we are not having new families with children that are my children's age move in because they can't afford it,
right.
and that really stinks. So just giving some context to what you were saying.
It is, and the thing about it is, we're there like help you to counsel you, whatever, and but things will get better. I don't
Yeah.
know when, but they will get better. There is light at the end of the tunnel. There is no doubt about it,
I'm
and we're there to
excited for
help.
this. I'm excited for the next 4 years for sure. I know that it's going to get better. Um, and if you're looking for a house to refi, to do a reverse mortgage, anything that's related to your home, go check these guys out. We'll put their website out after this podcast so that you can get in touch with them and then reach out because, it's one thing to have the whole group be veterans, but it's also just personally, I've known Gene for years, and this is not a guy who's trying to one boister out there about his background as military special ops guy. He's not trying to do this because he wants to make money off the veterans back. He's purely doing these things because he really truly wants to help and has
Yeah,
a massive track record of doing that. So when you have those key components, there's nowhere else to look. So you go check them out and get in touch with them and let them help you buy your home, sell your home, get a new home, whatever it may be.
that's all. In fact, um, in our we have a podcast. I'm sorry, a Zoom call twice a week. Our group gets together. We have a Zoom call every Tuesday and Thursday, and we go over it. It's supposed to be an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we nip things in the bud, and we try to see how we can help the veteran community, what have you. So it's not anything that's just, oh, we're going to do this. No, no, no. It is thought out, and we're there for the veteran and the non-veteran also.
That's amazing. It's amazing. Well, we'll put that information out so that people can get in touch with you and we'll blast this
Appreciate it.
out. Let's jump back into these books because for you, writing was this humongous sense of relief and sense of
Yes.
purpose, a secondary purpose after service, and then helping you get through your demons, which I love. Mine ended up being, it was so crazy. So I got in extreme sports and I was jumping off mountains and flying wingsuits and
Yeah.
all this crazy stuff. But ultimately, I went back to when I was a kid and I used to skateboard a lot. And as much as that sounds kind of childish, skateboarding at any age is very painful and it's very hard to do. And you have to work really hard to achieve certain measures or goals. And that was something that I was missing in my life was there's when you're a civilian, there's really no checks and balances other than I could lose my job, therefore I cannot pay for these things. But when you're skateboarding, let's say I just want to go because I'm not a street skater. I don't do all the little tricks on the ground and flip the board under me and all that stuff because that's just looks like ankles waiting to go. But I do big air stuff where I ride in the ramps and I ride in the pools and I get lots of air doing that. And so you can do aerials and you can go inverted. But anytime that I want to go accomplish something, I have to really think through it, not because I'm older, but because it's, let's say big skateboarding skills are hospital bills. And so, but when I hit that goal, it makes me have this major sense of purpose because you earn it. It's not something that's given to you. You can't cheat to get to that next phase of it. You literally have to go through the grinder and earn it. And when you do, it feels damn good. And this is something that I'm teaching my children now and why I have them at the skate park. It's because if you go to a skate park, let's say you go to a soccer field at my kids' age, kids will fall on the ground, they'll stub their toe, they whine, they cry, they go get mommy and daddy. You go to a skate park, those kids are in casts, those kids are bleeding, and they're still up on their boards trying to nail that trick. And so that teaches you adversity, and that is life. You will fall 1,000 times before you get that thing right. And that is such as life, And so you got the kids there, plus also on the side of it, since they get to go skateboarding, Papa gets to go skateboarding too. So there's a
Right.
little double-edged sword there. So, but getting back into your passion of writing, so you've got these 3 out now.
Right.
What led you to write each one of them, and what's the difference? And just kind of walk us through each book.
Sure. The first one, Surrender Not an Option, took me about 20 years to write. And dealt with my unit in Vietnam. And I used my team as a vehicle to tell the story. Now, my real team was comprised of North Vietnamese, the bad guys. In my novel, the bad guys are in my team.
Okay.
And then what I did was I started to get stories from other guys. And my main character, Alan Purvis, does these things that the real guys did, other guys did. So Alan Purvis is a multifaceted character. He is Bill Werther. He is Cletus Sinyard. He is, Joe Pinero. I mean, he is just of all these guys, all these team leaders, all rolled into Alan Purvis. And the missions, I would get a little bit of this mission, a little bit of Baby Son, a little bit of Pat Eddington, so on and so forth, blend them into one mission. But the missions are real. They all happen.
Sure.
Some of them are standalone missions. Some of them are composite missions, but they all happen. For an example, some of the humor stuff too. In the book, Colonel Warner shows up at the mess hall, whispers to the sergeant major. Sergeant major says, "At ease, at ease, at ease." The colonel gets on top of the table and says, "The TONE for this unit is 5 Jeeps. I repeat, 5 Jeeps. I cannot find a parking spot for my Jeep." And he gets down. At that time in camp, we had 28 unauthorized Jeeps.
That's awesome.
A lot of midnight requisition. He wasn't, the other Jeeps, he wasn't concerned. He was just the parking spot for his Jeep. He didn't have one.
Yeah.
That was it. So again, there was a lot of humor and so on and so forth. And then of course, in the novel, Alan Purvis is missing something deep within him that is missing. So the book is told in a flashback.
Okay.
It's done in a flashback. So you have to buy the book.
Yes.
Okay. Book number 2, the reunion mission, takes place about 20 years later. The action takes place in Panama. Now, I was born and raised in Panama. And so there's a lot of me in there. And I was talking to some friends of mine, they were former special forces guys that were in the DEA. And we were talking and everything else about Noriega and so on and so forth. They go, bingo, I've got a story. So I wrote that story. Former guys from his former team go down south to down to Panama and take care of a bad guy. That's the main story. The Diplomat, based on an actual event. 1988, for those of you that can remember, there was a truce between the Sandinistas and the Contras, that there would be free elections in Nicaragua. In 1989, there was a backdoor State Department deal, and to get Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick down to where she would bring these 14 political parties to nominate one candidate against Daniel Ortega. And so that's the crux of the novel, where Alan Purvis and George Petty, who in reality was George Petrie, Special Forces legend, to exfiltrate 14 members of the political party into Guatemala under the nose of the Sandinista Secret Service, and then put them back in. So that's the basic storyline on that.
You said that there's the same name. Are these books connected?
In all the three books, in fact, in all 5 books, I have the same basic characters: Alan Purvis, Sam Waters, whenever possible, George Petty. I introduce him in the reunion mission, and because I use the private investigations company that I was with at the time. I was a private investigator, and George had a lot of contacts with some government people, and we did a lot of government work.
That's
so
cool.
I use that to tell my stories.
See, I love that you infused yourself into this, and I also love that you've infused stories from your military career, because that's what makes the best of these books. Is okay, it's fiction right now because it has to be based off of our backgrounds to a degree,
Right.
unless you write an autobiography, and then you really have to comb it. But in fiction, you can get away with a lot more, and
Oh yeah,
that's the beauty, because people want to really know those stories. This is something I was saying not too long ago, because there's still this interesting thought process from active duty guys on, specifically Navy SEALs writing books.
right.
A lot of SEALs have written books, and for the most part, they're writing them with good intentions. And then there's a various few that do write it just purely for ego or want to make money off of the brand or whatnot. But my biggest thing is, I was talking to somebody and they're like, they had a problem with it. And I said, well, I've written a book, and while mine has nothing to do with the SEAL teams, you would immediately say, well, you wrote a book. That's not acceptable. You don't even know. But I said, let me ask you a question. Who is the best recruiter for the SEAL teams? And he answered me right away. He said, I don't know. And I said, well, it's us.
Yeah.
And so the only thing, when I was getting in, the marketing material for SEALs was Vietnam marketing material.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a small thing that had just come out about somewhat more present. But we're not in Vietnam. And so the SEALs look a lot different today than they did in 1962 or 1965.
Yeah.
And so I said, if we want to recruit candidates, the quality candidates that we want to be in our pipeline and want to be part of us, then we got to start sharing information with them. And so he was like, that's a pretty good point. And I said, dude, we're the recruiters. I can't tell you how many kids call or their parents call and say, hey, would you talk to my son? He's interested in the Navy SEALs. I'm like, absolutely, I will. We are the recruiters, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And so being able to share these stories and continue to put word out to recruit the younger generation, because this generation right now does not seem to give a damn about anything. And so take their phone away, delete their social media accounts, and turn off the TV, and let's see what happens to them. They lose their mind. So we got to start talking to them, and we got to start introducing them, and we got to do a better job of doing that. And that's why these books super come in handy. Plus, for guys like me, I just like sitting around and reading stuff from operations that I was not part of, because then I'll just be more angry about the fact that I wasn't part of that cool guy mission or that cool guy mission.
Well, the thing about it is, a lot of us is kind of like, we weren't there and it never happened.
Right.
Right. We weren't there and it never happened. I was never in Laos. It never happened.
Right.
Okay. I was never in Central America. Wasn't there. Never happened. But again, that, yeah, somewhere there's my footprint. But you're not going to tell them that. You
Right.
can't. And besides, if you tell them, they're not going to believe you.
Right. It's weird. I've been telling everybody that I killed bin Laden, and nobody seems to believe me.
I know.
It's weird.
Same here. I mean, for example, like I shaved Ho Chi Minh's beard, and, but no, I mean, seriously, it's just, our world is a very unique world, and I'm glad that we are part of that world.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that we are part of that world because we made a difference. We're not there for the glory. We're not there for whatever. We did our job. That was it. We did our job. And whenever I go to my speaking engagements, I always end it with, before you all go to bed tonight, I want you to say a silent prayer to the young men and women who perform acts of extreme violence on your behalf, so you can have a good night's sleep. And remember, tomorrow is another day.
It's awesome.
So that's always my ending thing. And all of a sudden they go like, oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Young men and women are doing that. And, and we forget that. Yeah. Because at one time or another, you and I were those young men and women.
100%. I say the same thing to people during the holidays. Say when you're enjoying, say, Christmas time, and you're sitting around the tree and you're watching your kids, or you're watching your family, or you're just opening presents, newlyweds, whatever, and you're celebrating Christmas, pause for a second and realize that there are people in seriously dangerous areas doing unthinkable things so that we can have this peace and this freedom to do this here and now.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing, 100%. Around the clock, there's somebody out there doing something on our behalf that we'll never know about, which leads me to my final point of this show is I always ask everybody to tell us a hero story. So something that when you watch somebody do something that was an act of just heroism, somebody who gave their life, somebody who mentored you in the highest realm that you could share some information about, just something that is an untold story the public would never know.
Wow. I don't know the date right offhand. But there was Gunther Wald and Doug Letourneau, the Frenchman. They were given a mission outside the box that included Laos. They went outside the box. And they had to blow up a fuel depot. This particular fuel depot, they were using a river. They were sending these 55-gallon drums down the river, floating them down to South Vietnam. The river was a tributary, part of the Mekong Delta deal. Doug was inserted, and Gunther Wald, and then they had to a small LZ. Then they had to walk 4 days to this river. Doug got into the river. They took out the cap, inserted the detonator, sealed it back in, let it float down. 4 days back to the extraction point. As they were being extracted, they saw and heard this massive explosion. And that prevented the summer I'm losing my word here. But anyway, there was no attack that summer of '69.
Wow.
Because they didn't have the fuel and they didn't have the equipment.
That's cool. That's incredible.
And then a few months later, a guy by the name of Lynn Blackjack, did the same mission. Offensive, that's the word I wanted to use, offensive. The summer offensive did not happen, and then the fall offensive did not happen.
Wow.
Because of these two men.
That's incredible.
And so, because it went outside the box of our so-called legitimate box, it was buried deep.
Amazing.
So yeah, that's the one that comes to mind, right? I mean, there's a few others, but that one comes to mind real quick. Another one is Eldon Bargewell. He went through the jungle, shot a guy. The guy had a brand new shiny AK-47. He took it, put on the Chi-Com vest where they have the ammunition here in front. Went a little further up, came across a guy that shot him in the vest. He killed the guy. They went into this cave complex kind of a thing, brought all sorts of maps, codes, books, you name it. And Eldon became the most guarded guy in Laos. Helicopter came in, picked him up, took him to Saigon, a lot of stuff. And he'd walk around and goes, yeah, look, see, look at that. Black and blue mark there. But yeah.
Amazing.
Those guys are up there.
Yeah.
And of course, our heroes, plural, is of course Dick Meadows and Roger Donlin. At that time, he was a captain, retired as a colonel, but he was the inspiration for a lot of us to become Green Berets. He got the Medal of Honor in 1964.
Wow.
And so he was this young, clean-cut captain. And at that time, the Battle of the Green Beret was going on.
Which is what?
The one that Barry Sadler sang.
Ah, okay.
You know, and so with the combination of those two, that was like, yeah, what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing just listening to you tell these stories. I was reflecting on a story that it didn't have to do with war, but it was purely just talking about heroism can look in many different forms and shapes. So this particular hero, I can't mention his name. He's still active duty SEAL. But his leadership ability, I've never seen anybody fully committed like he was to the leadership role. He was an enlisted guy, but he truly was a shelter for all the enlisted guys in the platoon underneath him. And he was a shield from all the bureaucracy and the bullshit from the higher ups and the officers. And every single time that there was a mishap or something that went down, he was always the first one to protect his core team underneath him, to where until years later, I never found out that any of this stuff was happening. And he's like, oh yeah, and this is what ended up happening off of it. I mean, he shielded us from everything. And just that is heroism to me.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get into that world in the military where you look at your higher echelon and you're like, yes, sir, I'll make sure that happens. I'll tell the boys. And then you go and you yell at them because they did something stupid. I mean, these are high energy, high octane alpha males, like you said. And from what better or worse, psychopaths. And you're going to tell me they're just going to be perfect and they're not going to have any issues? You're out of your damn mind. But for him to shield us from knowing any of the BS that was going down, shielded us so much that he would eventually get fired from his job because they knew they couldn't control him because he was always going to take care of us. And they fired him. And I'm like, wow, that is unbelievable. So that's one of my heroes. And when he gets that, I'm going to have him on the show for sure. And we'll circle back and tell that name to everybody. But brother, I appreciate you coming on and sharing all this. And more than that, I appreciate you as a human and what you've done for our country and what you continue to do to mentor guys like me and to help the American people. You are a true patriot.
Thank you, Birdman.
Frogman Friday. Long live the road.